So how you doing, man? So you're in California? Is it Monterey? Is how you pronounce it?
Monterey.
Monterey, right?
Yeah,
I,
and uh, it's actually Pacific Grove is actually the town I'm in, but it's on the Monterey Peninsula, which is what everybody thinks of as Monterey. It's got the jazz festival and the aquarium and all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I might have been in the neighborhood. Is it close to Big Sur ish, like Highway One?
yeah. It's like it's exactly 26 miles north of Big Sur because that's where they do the marathon. They do the Big Sur
Ah.
Marathon from Monterey to Carmel. So Carmel to Big Sur, and we're right next to Carmel, basically.
Yeah, I've been to Carmel. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lovely lovely area. Can't complain.
Yeah, yeah, nice,
So
man.
so so where are you?
Now I live in Leeds in the UK.
Oh, okay,
Um, well, yeah, I used to live in London before that, and before that Sweden.
okay.
Uh, I've
So
been
it's
in
like
the UK for 7 years
oh, nice. So it's
or
like 10
eight.
o'clock in the evening there now.
Yeah, nine.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's a cool city, Leeds. I'm still exploring it because of the lockdown. Haven't
Hmm.
really been able to do that, but we're getting there, which
Good.
is good. Before our interview, I was listening to your album Time One, and
Oh,
and the and the title song Time One. That's a beautiful. I love that song, man.
thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Really, really good.
that record was wow, 96 maybe 95.
Spotify said 95.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I'm
So,
doing a song
yes.
from that actually on the Monterey Groove record.
Oh, really? I must have
Yeah,
missed that.
yeah. The opening track is called "For a Long Time," and Dave Weckl is playing on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Was he also on the first album? Oh no, that album, Time One.
Oh no, that was before I knew Dave. I met Dave in
Ah,
2002.
right,
Yeah, the drummer on that record is a guy named Mike Shapiro.
right.
Hmm.
That does ring a bell, also. Actually, don't know where
He's
from, but
he's on lots of records. He's also he kind of specializes in Brazilian music. He plays with a lot of he has played in the past with a lot of Brazilian artists.
right.
Uh, but yeah, so there you go.
What do you call that style of music, by the way, from like Time One or your other records? Is it because it does feel a bit that it has some Brazilian influences, but I don't know if that's correct or it's completely wrong.
Well, yeah, I'm at that time I was working with Airto and Flora, so I I was very influenced by samba and Brazilian music, and Jose Neto was on that record. He's a Brazilian guy,
Right.
and that tune has Jose Neto and I think it's Mitch Foreman, Mike Shapiro, but that is kind of a like a samba in three sort of, you know,
Right.
yeah, and yeah, I love samba, you know, it's a great groove.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I mean, it's also so nice to because saxophone. I mean, it has it used to be huge. I was in the 80s, probably 90s. It's probably always been huge in certain circles. But it's so I miss it, because it used to be more prevalent in modern music
It
before, I
goes
guess.
it goes in cycles,
Yeah,
Sometimes it's especially in like the contemporary jazz world, it goes in cycles where like you hear saxophone all the time, then you never hear saxophone, or you no flute, we don't want flute, or we love flute, or it can't no digital piano, must be acoustic piano, that kind of
right,
shit.
right.
you know that's broadcast architecture, what they used to call it. I don't know what they call it now. You know,
What was that broadcast architecture?
broadcast architecture was the company that did. I mean, if I understand it correctly, it was the company that did all the studies, like with needle drops and focus groups and stuff like that, scientific studies to determine what people wanted to listen to.
Ah,
It basically took music like completely out of the equation. You know,
wow,
they would drop the needle somewhere on the record, and if it happened to be like an intense solo, people would go, "Oh, oh," "Oh, okay, we
mm,
don't," you know. So
wow.
it's very bizarre. So what happened was a lot of people were trying to fit into that little category because that's what was getting airplay. Now, the whole thing has totally changed. Anybody can listen to anything they want at any time. You know?
But so I mean, but if the saxophone, I mean, even if in jazz it comes and goes, I thought it was like a safe instrument in jazz at least.
Well,
But-
it doesn't really go in jazz. It's still pretty much prominent in straight ahead jazz. You know, you
Yeah.
have a lot of records that don't have saxophone on them, but you certainly have a lot that do. And there's certainly a lot of great, you know, contemporary, you know, modern jazz saxophone players now.
Yeah.
You know, a lot that I don't even know about probably. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get some great players also in like the Tedeschi Trucks band. They have some really awesome horn players. Snarky Puppy. I mean, obviously those guys. I
Yeah.
guess they don't feature the saxophone too much, but there is a saxophonist, I'm sure.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But so I also saw your birthday. I don't know what it was called, but like a birthday bash. Is that what you call the video on YouTube?
Oh, my live stream, my birthday
Yeah,
live.
that was cool, man. And you also kick ass on the piano.
Yeah, that's I'm playing a lot of piano on this record, you know, and I played last 2 nights ago. I did my big CD release kickoff here in local, you know, and you know, the actual release date for the record is until August 22nd or 27th, but so that's when, you know, it drops on all the digital platforms and all that stuff. But I have physical CDs, and I usually do that. I usually do like a CD release party for all my local fans and stuff like that, and they can come down and purchase a CD before anybody else, and you know, so yeah, so I just did that, and yeah, man, I'm playing 2 keyboards, and I actually have a saxophone player in my band because
Wow.
I need somebody to cover the parts, you know, while I'm playing all the keyboards. You know?
Right. But
That's
did
a
you also?
for
Sorry.
me. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I played some saxophone too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just wondered, did you also get into like synthesizers and stuff? Because I mean, you're into keyboard and piano,
Well, yeah,
I guess.
I mean, you know, anything that's not acoustic or a Rhodes or a Wurlitzer or a clavinet is basically a synthesizer. You know,
Right.
like all the digital pianos you see, those are, you know, they might be sampled pianos, but they're synthesizers, in my opinion. But yeah, I have 2 keyboards. I have a Juno, forget the model. It actually belongs to my colleague.
160 maybe.
It's got like all the D50 sounds and a bunch of other sounds in it too. It's pretty cool little keyboard. It you know, it gave me a nice brass sound, a nice organ sound, some nice bell sounds. You know, it's a pretty usable thing. And then I just use like Rhodes with like a nice soft vocal pad underneath on the Casio Privia, which is what I have on the bottom. You know,
Right.
so yeah. So that was really all I needed. I used to play keyboards quite a bit. I played with Al Jarreau for a year. I played keyboard, and you know, when I was with Airto and Flora with Fourth World, I played keyboards in that too. So I've always been a keyboard player, but I never fronted a group as a keyboard player. I've always been a saxophone player. So this is kind of a new experience for me. It's fun though. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra work though. A
How
lot more.
come?
Well, saxophone player is like, you know, you put it over your shoulder, you walk in, you're done with the gig, you walk out. You know, keyboards
Right.
like pulling into 2 amps, a mixer, and you know,
Right.
all this. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah. Exactly.
it's a much harder occupation.
Yeah, definitely. But so I mean, you mentioned Fourth World. That's correct, right? I tried to find because I read you have like a live of Ronnie Scott's album, but I couldn't find it on Spotify. I was intrigued to listen to it actually.
Yeah.
Is it there?
Did you try Apple Music?
No, I
It
don't
might.
have Apple Music.
Okay.
Maybe it's there.
I don't know. It is on Apple Music. I'm pretty sure of that. I
Right.
thought it would be on Spotify. I'm not sure why it's not.
So I guess that was in London then, right?
Yeah, it was at Ronnie
Yeah.
Scott's.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of the music. It's a lot of the music from Time One. That's
Right.
what it is. So it's a
Right.
lot of that music. Uh, I
Because
don't.
I talked to your, I believe you know Tom Kennedy,
Oh
the
yeah,
bass
of
player.
course.
Because we talked about Ronnie Scott's, and
Mhm.
I, even though I lived in London for so long, I was never there, and I don't know how that happened, but it feels like I missed something.
It's quite a place. It really is. You know
Yeah.
what? Right. It's not in there. I'll have to talk to.
Is that on Apple Music you're looking?
No, I'm looking on Spotify. Yeah.
Right.
Uh, I could try Apple Music too. Let me see here.
Yeah, it would have been cool to hear.
Yeah. Uh, oh wow, Monterey Groove is on there now. Uh,
Wow. Even though
oh
it's
yeah,
not out.
I know. Let's see what happens if I click on it. Oh yeah, there's only the promo. There's only the single Power Station.
Yeah. That
No,
happens sometimes.
Live at Ronnie Scott's is there. I don't know if you can
Right.
see,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's on Apple Music. If you go to Apple Music, it's not on
I
Spotify.
gotta, I gotta check
Strange.
it out. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
strange.
yeah.
Talk to
Can
Liv.
you play stuff on Apple Music without subscribing to it? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. But I might have like a free, like a trial thing.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how is that working for you? Like being an artist, like Spotify, Apple Music, does it have a benefit on anything, or is it just because
Uh,
you have to be there, you're on it?
well, yeah. It's the only real unless unless you're like the Silvermans and get like a billion spins. There's not a lot of real money there unless you have a lot of content out there. And if you get on certain playlists, you can make a little money. But it's to pretend that you're going to make a lot of money in jazz on streaming,
Right.
you would be kidding yourself. But what it does do is Spotify and the streaming services, they expose your music to a lot more people,
Hmm.
you know, who might actually want to come see you play, or maybe buy one of your CDs. So to me, it's like it's just like a platform for exposing people to my music. And you get a little bit, but it's hilarious the amount you get. I mean, it's you certainly can't live on it.
Right. I mean, what does it take to get a decent amount, or not a decent amount, but like even $100? I mean, what does that take? Like a few
Um,
thousand plays?
if I think, like, for me, even on the stuff I own completely, you get like, for one spin you get like 0.007, you know
Hmm.
so it's like a cents or something like that. you
Hmm.
know so you'd have to get, like, or so
It's like
maybe
a
maybe it's,
thousand
yeah, if you
to
got
get
like
one.
if you got like 1,000 spins, you get $1.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
it's like that kind
Right.
of thing. So 10,000 spins get you, $10. It's more.
Yeah.
It's a little more than that. I think maybe it's like 10 times that much. Maybe 1,000 spins get you $10. I don't know if you own the material, but if you've got a record label that's pulling some of that,
Yeah.
which Autumn Hill doesn't do. They're great.
Right.
Um, but yeah, they just because they're really cool guys. That's the only reason. They could if they wanted to.
Hmm.
Uh, and Yeah, it's let me see. I got one of my tunes off of my originals album. Uh, Stella on the Stairs got on a playlist, got like 120,000 spins, and I think I made $600. So what does that translate to? So 12,000 would be $60,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Something like that.
Right.
So it's, 6,000 is $30.
Yeah.
6,000. So we're pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
about like that. Yeah.
But
Um,
how do you deal with all that of that part of the music, like your own music? Like obviously it was it still is a pandemic. But how do you navigate, manage to get the gigs coming in, and like promotion, like promoting yourself? What's your strategy on that aspect?
Well, to tell you the truth, I do a lot of teaching,
Hmm.
you know, to keep the income flowing. And fortunately, I love to teach. And I'm still writing. I do sessions. I do remote sessions for people. I've got a studio. I can, I can record. I recorded Tom Kennedy's record right here.
Ah,
You know,
cool.
and I've done all kinds of stuff for people. So yeah, I get calls to do remote session work, and I've got some stuff. I've got some stuff in my catalog that generates some income, from time to time, and so in between that and the teaching, and I also have I have a steady piano trio gig right down the street.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's 2 nights a week, um, and but it's good money. It's 2 nights a week, and it's right down the street, and that between that and the teaching and everything else, everything works out okay. And I don't have to go bust my ass to try to find road work, you know.
Yeah.
And so because a lot of the guys that's all they were doing, they really got hammered, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was still able to teach online, and actually having the because of the pandemic, it afforded me the opportunity to use people that maybe ordinarily would not have been available. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Timeless. You know what I mean? So and also myself. Put a lot of time. I put a ton of time into this record, uh, and you can tell by listening to it. It's very good quality. Everything is cool, but we did it all ourselves.
Wow.
So I mean, including mixing. This is like so.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So, and I had to learn how to record drums. I'd never done that before.
That's
So I
cool. You did a great job. Yeah.
thank you. So I called up Dave. I said, man, what do I do? He's like, well, shit, man, that's like really deep subject. But I got a lot of help from a lot of guys, and I sent people things. I said, what do you think of this? Okay, well, move the mic a little bit this way, or put this kind of compression on it, or this kind of thing. So I basically learned how to record drums. I'm by no means an expert, but I got it done, you know
Yeah, definitely.
and it sounds really good. And my drummer is just like super cool guy, Skylar Campbell. Nobody knows who he is because he's like a local Monterey guy, you know
Hmm.
I'm the most famous person he's ever played with. So, but he's a great player, man, and he was excited to just learn how to get to do this process too. He's recorded on some records and stuff, but he's never like been involved like from the very beginning all the way through till the end. So he bought a new kit. He bought a Yamaha recording custom kit and some new microphones and by trial and error, we recorded it. Well, that sounds like shit. What do we got to do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's way better. Stuff that wouldn't ordinarily occur to you. Like you have to measure the distance from the overhead microphones to the center of the snare. They have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
and be
To
kind
the
of centered.
face.
Yeah, centered over the kick. Otherwise, you get like your snare drum is like moving around the mix. So it's kind of strange. And I didn't know that, so I'm just kind of put them up here, and it kind of
Yeah.
sounds hey, but then you play it for an engineer, and they go, whoa, where'd you where'd you put the mics? And so I had to learn that, and then every individual is different. Like you have to point the overhead slightly away from if you have a crash cymbal that's like a little obnoxious or gives you a little bit too much, you have to point it a little bit away from that. So you got to learn each individual player. But see, we had all the time to do this,
Mm.
and and my friend Michael Lent, the guitar player, he co-produced it with me. He did a few of the mixes too. We basically split them up. He got a little deeper into it. He was like, replacing some of the drum sounds and stuff, and just having fun with it. But they came out great, and
Nice.
I had to teach our bass player how to edit. He didn't really know how to edit, so
Nice.
he would like punch in the middle of a note, boom, boom. It's like no, can't do that.
Right. 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 That's so cool, man. I mean, that reminds me, like when I was 20 or something like that, and I have a band in Sweden, like a psychedelic rock band, sort of instrumental things.
Hmm.
And I had never done any recordings back then. And the same process, like we bought a bunch of stuff,
Hmm.
tried to record our first EP ourselves, and just like you said, like you try, sounds like
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Try
We
to,
keep going, and then eventually, you get there.
and you ask for help. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
my good friend Alan Meyerson, who he's like a scoring engineer for like
Yeah,
Hans Zimmer.
I know that name. Yeah.
Well, he used to do all of Jeff Lorber's records, who I played with, since 1986 or whatever. And so I called up Alan and I said, can I send you a mix? He goes, sure, and he calls me back, very diplomatically. He goes, okay, there's nothing wrong with it. But here's what I would do. And I learned stuff about, like, you don't just have all your stereo instruments in stereo. You put some here and you put some over there, and then it opens up. It makes room for the, making room for things in the mix. Yeah, and different kinds of reverbs and pre-delay and just all getting into all that stuff.
Exactly. It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And I got this new computer I got really made things better. This Mac M1 Mini. Yeah, it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much faster, man. My PowerBook was like, spinning beach ball, for like a half hour.
What's the PowerBook? Isn't that like 10, 15 years old or something like that?
2011, yeah, it's 10 years
Wow.
old. Yeah. So it could, I recorded like the first 2 or 3 songs on it, and it just kept, it was taking so much time to do everything, and so I said, well, shit, let me just bite the bullet. And Apple graciously allowed me to go $1,100 more into debt. so I bought this little M1 Mini, and from the very first time I fired it up, it was like, whoa, this is a whole different world. I mean, nothing. It never crashes on anything. I mean, I do Final Cut Pro with like, 4K video without having to, do a proxy. It's just like, I don't think my PowerBook can even handle 4K video.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess we'll see how well Final Cut Pro does 4K video, because we did some 4K video at the CD release concert. But so I guess we'll find out soon. Maybe it'll make a proxy. I don't know, but I know that the hour file is like 16 gigs or something. It's crazy, just for one little video.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's a bigger format these days than the PowerBook days.
So what is your scene, Niclas? What do you do?
I mean, so well, I still am, I guess, but I used to work as a talking about mixing and stuff as a engineer, doing recording bands, working in recording studios in London, doing live shows.
Do you know my buddy Chris Lewis?
No.
Okay, he worked at Ronnie Scott's forever, but he was like the house engineer there, and they also had a studio up there, so he did a lot of we worked on a lot of records. He's a really cool. He's like my age. He's a bit older, but maybe he's a little older than me. He might be close to 70. I'm 60 now. God, I can't believe it. But
don't look like it.
we used to. I mean, we used to play Ronnie Scott's for a whole month. Every year. Yeah. So.
Well, when was that then? Back in the 90s, then, I guess.
Yeah. It was that band Fourth World. I mean, it was sold out before we even got there. It was like very much a cult favorite there. Because Jose was like really cool. He had his incense and his bandana. And it was like the whole vibe. And Airto was kind of crazy. So that was a great experience, that band.
But what was the vibe? Because obviously I wasn't around in London back then. But what was the vibe? Do you remember? Like, was it gray and shit and poor?
Well, we always we were always there in the winter. So yeah, the weather was
right.
Most of the time it was pretty crappy. When the sun came out, it was like, wow, sun.
Where did you stay then?
Most of the time, we stayed in a lot of different places. But the last few times we stayed at the Shaftesbury Hotel.
Where's that?
Shaftesbury Avenue. You know where that is?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was right there.
Right.
Above the street. Craziness until 4 a.m.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but we were playing. We didn't even get out of Ronnie Scott's till like 2:30. So it was
Right.
yeah. But yeah, and we stayed. We also would stay. Sometimes we stayed at the what was it called? The Grafton Hotel. It was
Right.
a Edwardian hotel. It was up. You'd take Tottenham Court Road uh, towards you know away from Leicester Square and all that, and you just
Right.
take it that way.
Right.
Not Tottenham Court Road, Charing Cross Road. I think it might be Charing Cross,
Right.
but it's up there on the left somewhere. I can't remember the names of the streets. I'm terrible with that.
Well, that's fine. Me too.
But I spent a lot of time hanging out in Soho.
Yeah, yeah.
know,
That
but,
was back then when it was cool, I guess. Now it's just gentrified and super expensive.
oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had a friend. He doesn't work there anymore, but he worked in like a post production studio
Mm.
in 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 Soho. I mean, for TV and films, and I mean, just the rent itself. I don't know. I mean, it's like almost 100 grand or something a year. Pounds.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe even more. But it's crazy. I mean, the amount of money you got to bring in and just to pay the rent is crazy.
$10,000, £10,000 a month for a studio.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that here too. Like in San Francisco, like a
Yeah,
studio
yeah.
studio apartment's like $4,000 a month or something.
Mm.
And but it's funny if I know a guy who owns one of those, and he said, yeah, man, and there's people lining up to rent them because you have these rich like Silicon Valley.com people who make like $30,000 a month, so to them
Yeah, yeah.
it's no big deal, 30,000. God, I have some years that are $30,000, so
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, so it's a different world for me, but we my rent is 27. No, my rent is 2,400 a month. Yeah,
Right.
which is
Is,
which is a lot for me to come up with, every month.
is it a house or is it an apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom townhouse.
Right.
It's nice. It's fully, it's got new appliances and hardwood floors and stuff, but and for here that's not bad. You know,
Mm.
but
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a pretty good deal, actually.
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
but
I mean,
it's
that's also the reason, like, moving to Leeds from London, because here in Leeds you can get a house for the same price or even cheaper than getting a flat in London, for example.
mhm,
So that's one of the good things actually too, and the pandemic has helped that.
sure,
If it was for the pandemic, we'd still be living in London, still doing late gigs and having a daughter. That would be crazy. But now we
Well,
don't. So
London has a lot of different neighborhoods too, obviously, right? I mean,
mm, hmm
it's not all like it's not all like that, but maybe it is. I don't know.
now there are cheaper areas too, obviously. But yeah, it's
Hmm.
still it's still the capital. So yeah, it becomes more expensive
Sure.
because of that. But um, I'd love to talk to you about playing the saxophone because, like I said, like done a lot of gigs, especially in like blues sort of jazz places, and I always feel like the sax or like not only the saxophone but the horn players, right? Um, they always seems to be the hardest, or not the hardest instrument per se, but you can always tell if someone is struggling with the horn because the pitch always is always fluctuating, I guess.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, and you being a great saxophonist, why is it so difficult with the pitch? Or if it is difficult, I might be wrong.
Well, it's like anything else. You have to put a lot of time in on it. You
Mm.
know, if you don't, if you know, yeah, the horn the horn plays in tune if you play it correctly.
Right.
But what happens is if you don't have enough repetition to where your muscle memory is correct, then you start getting affected by situations. Like if you're in a loud place or you're having to play super loud, then you can blow flat, or you might over adjust and play sharp or something like that. But intonation, a lot of intonation is also about tone quality. If you have a good tone, it's easier to match because you feel the beats, you feel the vibrations with everything else. There's some places that are just strange. They just sound strange. Like the Iridium in New York, that's a strange place. It's got like weird rings. Like Tom Kennedy's got perfect pitch, and he was like, shit, man, I sound out of tune. And then he'd take his bass in the back and said, no, I'm in tune. But on the stage, there's like these weird resonant frequencies that make you feel like you're playing out of tune. Wow. That's, but as far as like horn players playing out of tune, sometimes, if they're just playing in the horn section in a blues band or something like that, there's not much to do, so,
do maybe the guitar is just too loud.
yeah, or maybe you're drinking too much.
yeah, exactly. But so I thought it had to do with how your breath or like your blowing technique, whatever you want to call it. Does that not affect it?
It's everything, but right. it all takes time on the instrument, and experience. I can pretty much play in tune in just about any situation now because I've been in just about every situation, many times. So and I've heard, and I always record myself and I listen back, when I hear myself and I go, ooh, that wasn't what I thought it was, Sometimes I think I'm out of tune and I'm not. Sometimes I think I'm in tune and I'm a little bit out, I'm never way out anymore because I just, I don't have that capability. But, sometimes, I'll listen to a recording and go, wow, I'm just overall a little bit flat. So I'll just push in a little bit and play it back again, Wow. Recording, you can do that.
yeah, exactly.
But most of the time, I don't even think about it anymore. I'm just, right. I'm just playing.
But so, I mean, how does it work with the saxophone? I mean, because I don't know how to play it. A lot to have to play it, but like, because also you have the keys, I would call them on the saxophone too, right? When you press down. I mean, do they correspond to a note? Like the first one is I don't know, C, for example. Is that how it works on the saxophone too, or is it in combination with how how much air you blow in, which note you get out?
No, the air column is the air column. That's it.
Right.
The keys change the length of the air column basically. So you put the first key, like open is C sharp. You put the first key down, it's B, or you put the second key down by itself, it's C. Then you switch to this and it's B. Then you put two keys down, it's A. You put three keys down, it's G. Put the first one down on the left hand, it's F. You go down C, B, A, G, F, E, D, right? And then low C. So yes, kind of. But it is in combination with other keys. You hold notes down as you push them down, and you make the tube longer, and it makes the pitch go lower.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's what it is. It's physics, I guess.
But so you're saying on the saxophone, there's only one octave, like keys. It's just one octave, and then to go an octave below, you have to hold it longer. Is it?
No, it's there's an octave key. So the first octave is first octave, and then you hit the octave key and you play the same notes again, and it's an octave higher. Right.
Got it.
And then you have palm keys that help you go higher than that, and you have bell keys that help you go lower than that. So, the range is about, I don't know. The on the horn range is your low B flat to high F, basically. So one, two, basically like 2.5 octaves. But you have altissimo, so you can go higher. Can't go lower really. But but yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, it's cool, man. But so, what has been your practice routine like when you started out, and when you were touring all over the world, like with all your various bands and stuff?
Well, as far as like when I started, it was just like I was in a rush because I didn't really start working on it until after I got out of high school. So so I just went deep into everything: scales, arpeggios, licks, you know, um, long tones, whatever, just getting into it. And I would play like all day long, every day. I would fall asleep with my neck strap on at night and wake up with it in the morning, and start playing again because I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have any girlfriends, so I was kind of like, just like I was, not by choice. It was just the way I was. So I just practiced all day long, and and uh, and I got a lot better really fast by doing that. Because you do a few things, you build up your endurance. I would play all day long, and then I would jam at night. Go, either create a jam session or go sit in somewhere. And then I started getting these little $30 jazz gigs that I would go play, or blues gigs or whatever, and started working that way. And then I would discover what I needed to work on. I need to work on my blues shit a lot because that's a whole different thing. Bebop licks don't help you in blues gigs.
Right.
You gotta listen to guitar players and singers, because they're the ones that know how to play blues. Mm. And so, you learn what not to play. And then I was bringing my keyboards along the same way. I learned what kind of chords you can play, what kind of chords you can't play, learning how to fit into a rhythm section, how to be a rhythm section player, Being a rhythm section player very much helps you as a saxophone player. Most saxophone players that don't play a rhythm section instrument don't quite understand that you need to know how to lock with the rhythm section, just like a rhythm section player. You got to lock with the drummer, lock with the bass player, lock with the hi-hat. If you can do that on the saxophone, then you become a greater asset. That's why, I think, drummers like Dave like me, because I'm very accurate with my with my timing. I can lock with the hi-hat and, affect the groove in a positive way.
Right.
Most of the really good working saxophone players can do that. But it's, to me, I think I learned it from being a rhythm section player. Being a keyboard player, which I'm doing again now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why did you start playing the saxophone? What was there a moment of like you hearing something just caught your attention, or what was the story?
Not at all. It's kind of a really strange story, actually. The reason I started on clarinet, actually, I started on piano. I played piano all through junior high school, and in, I think, my second year of junior high, I realized that there were a lot of little girls that could read really good on piano, and they could just look at something and read it and play it. And that scared the crap out of me because I couldn't do that. Reading two hands on piano was just like so intimidating to me. It took me like 15 minutes to like figure out a chord, so I went, God, I need, and then I'm looking over at the horn players, and they're like reading one note at a time. It's like, oh man. So I said, I want to learn. It's literally like this. I want to play an instrument that you only have to read one note at a time. So at the time, my dad had these records, these swing records, because my dad was born in like 1912. So he had like a lot of swing records from the old era. And so there was Artie Shaw, Begin the Begin. And I heard that, and I went, wow, that's a cool sound. I like that. What is that? He said, that's clarinet. He said, you want to play clarinet? I said, yes. So he got me clarinet, and I learned how to play clarinet. So that's how I started on clarinet. And then in high school, I wanted to play in the jazz band, and you can't play in the jazz band playing clarinet. You have to play saxophone. So that's why I took up saxophone, so I could play in the jazz band. Somebody gave me, I remember I was at a football game because I was in the marching band, clarinet player in a marching band. There is no more useless feeling than being a clarinet player in a marching band. It's like standing in the middle of a football with a clarinet. I mean, it's hilarious. Wow. It can't be heard more than like 10 feet away,
Right.
So anyway, but some guy said, let me honk on his alto. And I went, wow, this is pretty cool. You don't have to cover holes. You got pads. I like this. This isn't too bad. So within, I don't know, within 6 months, I was playing good enough to be in the jazz band at school, which is not much, but you know, and then when this was my senior year of high school already. So when I graduated, I tried to go to Cal State Northridge, the college here, and I auditioned for the jazz band on saxophone, and I was not good enough to make the lowest ensemble. You know, they you know, I showed potential, but there were a lot of kids that were a lot further along than me. So I said, okay, I basically, make a long story short, I quit college and I told my dad, I said, I want to go to music school. I said two things. I want you to buy me a Fender Rhodes.
Wow.
So I can work, and I want to go to a music school. He goes, okay, you know, because he saw that I was sincere. And at the time, a Fender Rhodes, you could get a Fender Rhodes for like $75, you know.
Yeah, today they're like several grand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but they were making them, and you know, you could go to a local music shop and buy tines, you know, for them, you know.
Wow.
You know, maybe 200 or something, you know, but nothing like they are today, you know. So I got one. I got a Fender Rhodes, and then when the DX7 came out, that sort of changed my world too, because you could actually play like a usable electric piano without all that weight, you know. So I started doing gigs, a lot more gigs on keyboards, and you know, it all kind of, you know, it all kind of meshed together. But the saxophone sort of happened by accident, but I fell in love with it. Obviously, you know, I started listening to great jazz players, and I really identified with the sound. I was mostly an alto player for a long time, and then I kind of switched. To. I still play alto. I still teach on alto. I play soprano too, obviously. But I most of my studio work is on tenor. Right. You know. Yeah, because I don't really have like the Dave Kaz, Eric Marienthal, you know, like metal Dave Sanborn tenor sound. I'm a little bit more on the jazz side. But with the tenor, I can pretty much give them whatever they want. You know, I can do the Michael Brecker thing. I can do the Stan Getz thing if they want. You know, so I'm a more versatile tenor player than I am an alto player.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So, but it sounds like your dad at least was very supportive. I mean, you said he was born 1912.
Yeah. He was kind of he died when I was 24. You know, so I was a young man, but he was So I was born in 1961. So so he was 47 when you know. So that's. My mom, I think, was like 35 or something. So me and my sister were later. Like my older sister is like 11 years older than me, and 10 years older than my sister. So it's you know, it's that kind of family. It's not uncommon, but actually, my dad is a very musical guy. He was a very musical guy. He played like sort of like barbershop piano. You know, like some of the first tunes I learned were like 5'2" and Yes Sir, That's My Baby and stuff like that. You know, stuff from the 20s and 30s. And but he had a very good ear. You know, he had a very good ear for music. He taught me how to harmonize and you know, taught me my first basic chords. You know, and I'm basically on piano. I'm basically self-taught. I had a teacher, but she was kind of like a child's teacher. You know. So most of the real stuff that I learned, I taught myself just from copying people and talking to people. I like to talk to musicians, you know, like when we were on the road with the Dave Weckl Acoustic Band with Makoto Ozone, you know, what an opportunity to talk with a guy like him. You know, I would film at sound checks and rehearsals, and I would make tapes of myself and send it to him, and he would critique. You know, take that opportunity, man. You know.
Yeah. What did you learn from him? Was it anything specific that he changed in your playing?
In my piano playing, a lot. Yeah, not in my saxophone playing, but in my piano playing, a lot. He taught me about using the weight of your hands to create momentum. And see, because a lot of times, and I still do this. I'm slamming with my arm to get like double forte. And he said, no, man, let your arms drop from here. That's forte. Like, wow, that didn't take any effort at all. You know, I mean, there's resistance at the bottom, and there's impact, but you're not, causing all this pressure in your shoulders, and so I learned a lot about that. And he also gave me a book, a method book. This guy, Moskowski is his last name, and it's like 27 exercises that just 20, I guess. I have another book that's 27. This is 20, and it just goes through left hand and right hand together and fingerings. And I've only gotten through 4 or 5 of them, but that in itself has really helped me, because I can pretty much play the piano and look at you and talk to you, and I don't have to be staring at the keys all the time now.
Right.
And
what
also,
was the book called?
It was called Moskowski. Is his last name. It's like Moscow with a SKY at the end.
Yeah.
And he's got a whole bunch of literature out there, but this was 20. I think these were like 20 easy pieces or something like that. It was called. But
check it out.
Yeah. It's fantastic for learning independence with the two hands. Because the first one is both together. And you're going and you're changing fingerings, and you got to do all the right finger, and then gets a little bit of scales going on, and then the next one is like all right hand. Then the next one is like left hand. So you get through that, and it's all in, most of it's all in C or G, or it's pretty easy keys. He probably gets into tougher keys as it goes on. I haven't investigated.
Right. But how did learning piano evolve your saxophone playing? Because I'm a guitarist myself, and recently started trying to learn piano, and that helped me a lot. In terms of just thinking about music in a, I guess, was it horizontal way rather than a vertical way like the guitar is? And
right,
guitar is very pattern based, but piano you're just there. It's different beast to look at. Yeah,
so, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because I was learning how to play the guitar a few years ago, and when I can actually play some pretty good bebop lines. And if you watch me play the guitar, I don't look like a normal guitarist, because I'm all over the place on the neck. I'm just kind of going. But then I look at some of my favorite jazz guitarists, like Bruce Forman is a friend of mine, and he doesn't care where he is. He just takes it, and he's totally linear with his lines and stuff. He doesn't play in the box like you see a lot of fusion players that play in the box all the time. Yeah. And they're burning. They know how to do it. And it's a good way to learn. Because you learn your chords that way. You learn the shapes. And so I think that's why. You learn the shapes, and that's how you learn how to play your lines, by arpeggiating and slightly moving around within those things.
Exactly.
And, the piano, like you said, the piano is it's like all it's all out in front of you. You can look down. You can look down and see. You can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sort of can on the guitar. And saxophone, you can't at all. You got to look in a mirror, if you want to see yourself.
Exactly.
But to answer your question, how it helps me is I can play harmony, right? I can play harmony and melody and a piano's like an orchestra almost. You know what I mean? You've got everything. Guitars too. So if you have that in your head, while you're playing the saxophone, if you have the luxury of hearing all the harmony while you're playing, you have much more options available to your ears. I'm an ear player. If you ask me what scale goes over what chord, I have to really think about it,
Right.
And that doesn't really do any good. If you have to think about what you're going to play, you're screwed, So to me, if I see like a like a E flat 7 sharp 11, I can hear it. It's like it's a sound. The chord symbol represents a sound to me, and that a lot of that is because of piano. I know that because when I was I used to be a traveling clinician with the Monterey Jazz Festival, and we used to talk about we would go around to all the local schools and talk about jazz playing and stuff like that. And the trumpet player, who was a great trumpet player, this guy Peck Allman from New York, used to come out every month from New York and tour around with all these kids. But he told me one time, he said, "Look, you have to understand that you play the piano. It's totally different. A person that learns to play an instrument one note at a time, to them, chords are like bizarre things. They don't make any sense. They might understand the sounds, but like the construction of it. If you see a piano, even a C chord, C, E, G, you see it. There it is. Yeah. It's pretty easy. And all you have to do is move up: C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major. You just move up the white keys, and you can see like a whole bunch of chords.
Yeah.
And hear them. And all you have to do is, if you've got good ears, all you have to do on the piano is just mess around until stuff sounds good, And you can move things in one direction or another, it's really not a hard instrument to learn how to be a utilitarian piano player. Now, to learn how to perform, that's a whole different thing, because performing is not like playing into a sequencer and quantizing and, fixing notes that are wrong. You have to play it right. So that's where my piano trio gig has really helped me, because piano trio, man, you're it. You're the melody, you're the harmony, you're the solos, basically some solos, but I know a lot of tunes, and I know a lot of tunes a lot better now, because I realized that if I don't, I can't say, hey, take the bridge, to the sax player. I can't do that. I got to do it myself, So you got to learn the whole song. You got to learn it right, and so that's been really good. But yes, it has been very helpful to my saxophone playing, and I imagine it's very
yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But how do you get away from thinking about what you're going to play? Because I think I do that a lot in combination with not thinking also. But there's definitely times where I think, okay, which key am I playing in? Which note should I go to? How do you free yourself of that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because it is very difficult sometimes. Something's coming out. Something's coming up, especially if you're a saxophone player and you're just sitting there waiting to play. That's like, that's a perfect fertile breeding ground for like thinking of something to play. It's like you got this entrance coming up, and you got this really cool idea that you want to nail, and so what I always go back to this. Miles gave a Steve Reed, this percussionist, was doing a record got called to play on a record for Miles Davis, and he was doing this overdub. And Miles said, "Okay, think of the, in his voice, think of the hippest thing you can possibly play, and then don't play that." I always go back to that, because then it's like, you know what, he's right. And Airto used to say to me, he said, "Look, man, I don't care what you play, just don't play what you played last night. Just don't do that. It's like what it's like. It's like telling the same joke to the same people. You know what I mean? It's like, it's still a good joke, but they're not going to laugh because the effect of it is over. So there's motivation there, is what I'm saying. So then what you have to do is trust. You have to trust in your ability to hear something, and that's hard. You want to go back to the old tried and true. I know this is going to work, so I'm going to do. So when you're coming up, you learn a lot of things. You learn like a lot of go-to things. Like, this is my go-to thing. If all else fails, I can go to this. I know it's going to sound good. I know it's going to work. you know, and there's a lot of that. That's probably like, I'd say 80-90% of my playing is stuff that I know is going to work. The other 10% is when I'm really pushing it, and that's when the magic happens. You know, that's when the magic really happens, because everybody can feel it. It's like, whoa, that was different. You know, whoa, that was different. I wasn't expecting that. You know, and that's when, you know, it just opens everything up, and everybody else feels it, and you know, that's what I live for in you know, in jazz.
What happens when you do that? Like, what's the difference in your mind, like in your playing, or in your thinking also? Like the difference between those extra, or those other 10% compared to the other 90? Is it what happens in that moment, right?
It's kind of like a thrill of being, you know, out there on a tightrope, you know, with no net. You know what I mean? It's like you got to take that next step, and you got to go, and you know, you may fall off, and if you fall off, you got to learn how to fly. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a thrill. But whenever if I ever like chicken out and go back to like what I know, I'm always disappointed. You know,
right.
so I always try to, you know, and there's lots of different ways to do it. You can push the envelope rhythmically, you know, like taking things like over the bar line and a little deeper. You can push it harmonically, dynamically, you know, like do unexpected things that take you in a different direction. But the key is you have to respond to it. You know, it's like you do something, you go, whoa, and then you don't respond to it other than that, then you know, it's like, so you have to remain calm. So it's a weird kind of situation. It's like the energy tells you to get excited, but you can't get excited. You have to remain calm. And the calmer you remain, the harder you can push against it, and the more energy you can put into it, and the stronger you can make it. And so it's kind of like a Zen kind of thing in a way. You know, it's like focusing the energy, channeling the energy in the right way. You know, it's hard, man. It's, you know, very difficult. You know.
Yeah.
Dave Weckl does it very well.
Right.
He focuses that energy. You know, his playing is amazing. You know, and you know, most of the great players have learned how to do that. You know.
In which way does he do it so well then? Like, what is it you feel he's doing that is so good in that way?
First of all, he's just masterful at playing the drums. You know, he's set everything up. You know, he sets everything up ergonomically perfect. His drum set is set up absolutely perfect. He gets great sound. So he takes all that out of the equation. And then it's just his musical taste. He just knows what he wants to do, and he has so much skill that he can pull off just about anything he wants to at any time. And that's a great thing to have. You know, it's like, well, how does he do that? Well, he practiced it really hard for a long time. You know, that's basically it. You know, he'll talk. He'll say, yeah, man, when I was watching TV, I was on a practice band. You know, and you know, but he, as far as like the energy and mastering it, he never spreads. The energy never spreads. It's always focused. So even when he's at his most intense, there's still a focus. There's still a focus there, you know. And Chick Corea is the same way. Chick was probably an influence on him in that way. You know, very, very focused. You know, they're there, they're playing, they're burning, but there's always still attention to what he's doing. You know, it's like I always tell my students, keep some attention in your fingers, no matter what's going on. Keep some attention in your hands. What are your hands doing, man? Because your hands play the instrument. You know, your body doesn't play the instrument. Your hands play the instrument. If you don't make the right move with your fingers, doesn't matter what you do. You're gonna be screwed. You know, you can want to play an A, but if you're fingering a B is going to come out.
Yeah,
you know, that's why I keep telling my students. I said, did you want to play a B? No. I said, well, you did. You got to pay attention to what your fingers are doing. You know, it's like just because you see an A on the paper and you know it's an A doesn't mean you're going to put your finger there. You know, so that's why I'm always saying, you know, feel your fingers, feel your fingers. I say that with guitar players too. I have some guitar students actually, and
Wow, cool.
I have a bass student, and you know, I teach a lot of different instruments because this type of teaching translates to, you know, all different instruments. And I play enough guitar to see, you know, to be able to make comments. But most of it is just conceptual, you know, what makes music, you know.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. I mean, music is really
Yeah.
fascinating. That's why we are where we are, I guess. You
Yeah.
know.
So
um,
is there anything specific that you wanted to talk about other than just general music stuff?
I just to see where the conversation led us. To be
Oh,
honest,
cool.
nothing super pre-planned, which is what I
Good.
like to do. Like music, I guess,
Yeah.
like a
That's great.
random jam. But so, Gary, before we wrap up, yeah, it's been, like I said, really interesting talking to you. But you have a new album coming out, obviously,
Hmm.
um, and that's coming out, when did you say, 27th?
August 27th, yeah, is the official release date.
And it's called Monterey
Monterey Groove.
Groove.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also really excited to see if I can find that. Oh yeah, there was an Apple Music. You said Ronnie Scott's.
Yeah, Live at
Oh
Ronnie's is on Apple Music for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
that
You
would
might
be
have to
cool to
you
hear.
might have to bite the bullet and pay like $5 a month to cancel it or something.
Or maybe I can find like a vinyl of it or something. Maybe that's a bit hard to get.
No, I think I actually this one is only on digital. I mean, if you find a
No,
CD, go for it. You know,
it's fake.
they used they used to have them at Ronnie Scott's, you know, for a long time because it was on his it was on their Jazz House label.
Hmm.
So you might be able to find a CD of it somewhere. It was never on vinyl, you know.
Right. Yeah, I'll
But
see if I can.
yeah, you might be able to do that. But you can digitally find it on Apple Music. For,
Yeah.
yeah.
Perfect. Awesome, man. And where can people like hire you for lessons and just find more info about
Well,
yourself?
uh, let's see. You can reach out to me on my website, garymeek.net, and you can, you know, there's an email for me there, and you can also sign up for my mailing list, which usually whenever there's an event or something, it usually goes out. Uh, you know, lets people know about it, and you know, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gary Meek Jazz. And that's about it. I don't do Twitter or TikTok or any of that other stuff.
No, same actually. I leave a link, links to those things you mentioned below, so people can check it out.
Good, good, excellent.